Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I am Aaron, and this is the Inclusive Dad podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in exploring ways we can create a more inclusive world together. You are important, you matter, and you can make a difference. Today, my guest is April Ratchford. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Why don't you just start us off by just telling me a little bit about yourself?
So, I am an autistic occupational therapist. I didn't discover I had autism until I got into my older years. Um, I have an autistic son. My dad is autistic. My All my nieces and nephews are autistic. My poor sister is the only neurotypical, so she had to deal with all of us. I started a podcast when I found out there are no transition programs for autistic young adults when my son went off to college after COVID. And it's been a clusterfuck finding supports for him to get from high school to the adult world. So I decided I would create that because I was like, what do you mean there are no OTs in this field? You mean I'm the only one? Okay,
Right.
okay. I guess I'll create it. So here I am trying to spread the word that we need more supports for autistic young adults because there's no reason that 85 to 92% of them should be unemployed when they are gifted and talented.
Right. Yeah. So you're in Kentucky and they don't have any well, in Minnesota, I think like vocational rehab helps with stuff after like the age out. Is there something like that in Kentucky or not?
They do have
Okay.
vocational rehab, and right now my son is in it, and he is going banana pants because for whatever reason, it's like a catch-all. There's not really, they throw whatever diagnosis in there.
Hmm.
And right now he's in a class where a student yells random things all day and has been doing it since April 1st, and he is in burnout. He's like, Mom, if you don't send me some noise canceling headphones, I am going to lose my shit. And I
Hmm.
was like, okay, I will do that for you. And I'm like, but first you ask for your accommodations. And he's asked for them and he got denied. And I was like, what do you mean you got
Hmm.
denied? He said they said no. I was like, okay, mommy will handle it from here.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, what does that mean? I said, they just pissed mommy off. So I will handle it from here. So that's what I mean. I'm like, you shouldn't have to jump through hoops to get your accommodations, especially when I said I would provide the accommodation.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And that's about the only thing they provide in Kentucky. And I'm like, that's not enough. That's
Right.
not enough.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a daughter. Her name is Cecilia. She is 22. Yeah, she turned 22 last October. Aged out of like the um, transition. I think they call it transition schooling stuff in Minnesota, and then was excited to go to the local community college, and then found out she'd have to like do the AccuPlacer test, and which we didn't know about until after she was already out of the school stuff, and that didn't go well because they didn't do they can do some accommodations, but not to the level of what she needed in school. So now she's kind of in a holding pattern, taking some adult ed classes just to do some stuff, kind of schooling things to try to take it the acuplacer again. So yeah, we've not had a great experience with stuff after the age of 22 for sure either. So
There is actually a transition program in Minnesota,
okay,
and I can't think of it right now. I didn't know there was one in Minnesota. that is like a college. It's a
Yep.
nonprofit.
Yes, I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, and that's up in the. I think it's the one up in the. Oh dang it! It's up in like the Twin Cities area, and I think she. I looked into that, and it's you can't have like need like the level of assistance that she requires to go
Yeah.
there. I believe so. That yes, there is that one which we. She needs 24/7 somebody with her. So yeah, that was
Okay.
it was somebody that was able to kind of be more independent and just need a little few things here and there. But yeah, there is at least that one and maybe one more. I think in Minnesota, so there are a couple.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm like, there's only so many, and I'm
Right.
like, there's gotta be,
Yeah.
we've got to create more because I'm like,
Yeah, it's frustrating.
it's very frustrating,
Yeah.
especially like there's one other school in Kentucky that has autism specific support in for colleges, and it's
Okay.
Western Kentucky, but they're like, we want you to test into it, and I'm like, what do you mean?
Right.
And then they're like, yeah, and it costs an extra, some of these autism specific supports, like Marshall, they're like, yeah, it costs $3,000. And Western Kentucky's like, yeah, it costs 17,000. I'm like, I'm sorry,
Right.
it costs 17,000.
Right.
And then they do have a transition program, but then they're like, we want you to have an IQ of this. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
You're isolating a certain population.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what are parents supposed to do?
Yeah.
We don't want to put them in nursing homes and group homes that they present are
Mhm.
like unicorns.
Yeah. And for my daughter too, we kind of like, well, can you audit a class? Because I mean, when I went to college, you could audit classes. So I'm like, can she audit a class? And they're like, no, she can't do that either. And I'm like, well, we would need something to get her out of the house where she can go be around other people and do that kind of stuff. And that wasn't even really an option. So it's just there's. I didn't like regular school with the IEPs and all that stuff, but then I was like, okay, that was at least there was something that kind of helped and some supports. And now it's just it's kind of it's pretty crazy what there isn't much stuff.
It's awful. It's
Yeah.
really awful when they get out of school. And I'm like, what
Yeah.
do you want these kids to
Right.
do? Like
Right.
sit around and do nothing?
Right. Yeah. So yeah. So you said, can you maybe talk a little bit again about what inspired you to start your podcast?
So my son, his dream was to go off to college like his other two cousins, which both have autism. And he was like, I'm gonna be a video game designer. And I was like, and this was right after COVID,
Yeah.
and I knew he wasn't ready because I was still washing his clothes. And I was like, so listen, friend, you have to be able to be independent to go to college.
Right.
You're not ready. So I kept him out a year. And I took it upon my OT self to make him learn how to wash his clothes, do his own schedule, not stay in his room and be on his laptop all day. And then when I said, okay, we'll try EKU, it's not that far. It had an OT program, speech program. I figured, okay, they might have, higher supports,
Mhm.
OT. It's not that big of a campus. I'll let you go on. And my niece happened to be there as well. So he
Okay.
couldn't be
Yep.
too much in trouble. Went off during the summer where there's a whole lot of people. And he went to something that was called the Colonels, where they were supposed to take kids out, get them on campus, used to campus,
Yep.
integrate them and everything. And it was a total nightmare. He was by himself most of the time, had no idea. what he was doing.
Sure.
At the time, he was calling me, and I'm like, "You're supposed to be calling them. Why
Right.
are you calling me? I'm like, I haven't been in college, dude. I haven't been in college in 7 years." She said, "But you still know." I'm like, I'm trying to work in pediatrics. So I'm doing all this stuff. They didn't have their assisted student supports open half the time.
Okay.
So when fall rolled around and they could move on campus before, and I went to his dorm, it looked like animals had lived in his dorm. He could bring his cat, Peter. Peter's living his best life. I was like, have you showered? Why does it smell like animals in here? We can't leave this dorm room like this.
Hmm.
It's awful. Have you been out of this room? He goes, I've been out to eat to Panda. I was like, what? So I was like, oh my God. I'm hoping the fall was going to be better.
Yep.
I just happened to know the president of the assisted student support because she was my advisor when I was
Okay.
consulting
Yep.
at school. So I called her up and I was like, can you please just watch out for my kid?
Right. Yep.
She's like, yeah, yes. So she helped him out, taught him the map, everything.
Right.
His advisor gave him like 16 hours because he was supposed to be on he was on, he didn't do well that summer. So I was like, why does he have 16 hours? Why is no one calling me? Totally overwhelmed.
Yep.
Then he got these awful emails saying he was rude, that he might be kicked out. He was panicking. They never communicated with his student support.
Hmm.
I was like, so he ended up being suspended. I was like, this is an awful experience.
Right.
Ended up with a $20,000 bill simply because no one contacted me because he didn't have enough financial aid. I was like, why would you let this kid take all these courses if he didn't have enough money? I'm his financial support. They're like, well, he's an adult. I was like, I don't understand. He has autism.
Right.
So I got so frustrated that the system would take advantage of somebody that has autism. Financial aid is difficult in itself to
Yep.
understand. And I was like, if they did this to him, how many other students are they doing this to? And how many
Hmm.
parents are left like this? I started a podcast so parents can understand, listen, not all schools are looking out for your kids. And
Hmm.
there are schools out there with autism specific supports if you don't know they're out there.
Right.
So that's how that got started because not all kids are made for school.
Yep.
There are other supports. They may need coaching, they need maturity, and it's okay that they stay home a little bit longer. Like right now, my son is 23. He was accepted into Marshall University that has autism specific supports for fall.
Hmm.
He's mature enough. He was ready to go. Held a job for 2 years because I wasn't going to let him sit on my couch
Hmm. Yep.
and learned how to pay bills, learned to budget, learned how to do responsibility, learned to cook, and now he's ready to go for the next step.
Sure.
And and it's okay. Like he feels like he should be on a timeline, and I'm like, timelines don't matter. I'm
Right.
like, it took me 5 times to figure that out. I failed out of college 5 freaking times before.
Right.
I was the first to go off in '94, and I got my master's in 2013. So
Right.
it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole college thing is interesting because I mean, there's definitely some people who should not go to college right away. I mean, it's not they're not ready for it. They're just not into it, and it's they go to college, get tons of debt, and then they have to deal with that. It's like, yeah, it's not right for everybody. So I'm glad you're trying to help your kids figure out when is the best time. So you're not trying to not waste that um, time and money and opportunity if they're not ready for sure.
Yeah, it especially now, it's a huge, huge debt to
Yes.
take.
Yes.
And if you and I try to tell parents in my podcast, I'm like, do you want them to go to college or do they really want to go
Yep.
to college?
Yep.
And it's okay if they don't want to go. If they
Right.
are happy just working a job, teach them to work a job, invest their money, and work
Yep.
on their budget.
Yep.
It's cool. You can do it other ways. It's not like when we were
Yep.
growing up.
For sure. Yeah. When we were younger, was totally different than it is now. It was more needed back then. I feel like now it's not required for lots of things at this point. So
There are
yeah.
people on YouTube making more money than I do, and I'm a little
Yes.
jealous.
Yeah. There's lots of crazy ways to make money now, so that don't require college for sure. Yeah, for sure. What resources would you recommend for autistic individuals looking to build life skills and independence?
So I would definitely, if you are still needing life skills and you are just coming out of high school, you can still tap into OT services.
Okay.
So OT services can still be an option if you still need life skills. And there's coaching. And unfortunately, if you are on Medicaid, you'll have to pay out of pocket, but you can get coaching. I got coaching for my son. Was it a pretty penny? Absolutely. He's lucky I love him. But it is worth it, especially if they need time management skills, executive functioning skills. I know people are like, but aren't you an OT? But he doesn't see me as that. I'm always going to be mom.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
mom first, unless he really wants something OT wise. Then when he's in trouble, he's like, hey, I need your OT skills.
Right.
Like when he wanted his noise canceling headphones.
Yeah.
But parents can still tap into their speech skills for
Mhm.
executive functioning. They're not just for speaking, they can still do for organizing
Sure.
and all those things that they need for, you know, anything that they need for like budgeting
Right.
and all those things. Like that's what vocational rehab can do. Like my son learned how to keep organized and keep his room clean. That's what his OTs are focusing on, and cooking skills, problem
Mhm.
solving, and all those things. So those are things that are still can be tapped in as they transition out of school. And those services can be tapped in. Every state is different, so there's
Mhm.
services for every state.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. In what ways can schools and community programs better prepare autistic teens for life after graduation?
So I have a list.
Okay.
What OTs can do in a high school is I think they need to bring back home ec stuff. Like
Mhm.
they need to learn how to cook. They need to learn how to do banking. They need to learn how to do budgeting. They need to learn how to do these life skills, laundry, um, all these things that we used to have in school and they've taken out because they focus so much on these silly little tests
Right.
that colleges are like, that's not what we want. We want critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Well, you get those when you have all these life skills, critical thinking skills. Well, what are you going to do if your food is not boiling fast enough. Well, you use your
Hmm.
critical thinking skills and turn up that pot.
Right.
These are things that kids are going to need. They're not really going to need their algebra skills unless they're going to go into accounting or
Yep.
engineering. I don't use any of my algebra skills. I hire somebody that has that degree.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and while socialization is great, you have to realize as well, kids are going to, high school is one big clusterfuck and it's a
Yep.
clique.
Yep.
And we all know, like, high school is the most miserable experience of our lives. Like, some people there, it's like, I loved high school. I'm like, that was the most shitty part of my life
Yep.
ever. If you're autistic, we don't we could care less.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. Life experience is will keep on going. Like my son, he was like, "Ugh," that was like traumatic for him. So I'm like, life is not like that. I promise you.
Yeah, for sure. Those are great tips. What is your definition of inclusion?
Hey, Ron, you're making this real hard. So inclusion is, for me, inclusion is just learning to be compassionate and tolerant.
Hmm.
Like, we're all not the same. And just because you don't see it on the outside doesn't mean somebody doesn't have a disability. Like, people look at me all the time and they're like, "You're autistic?" I'm like, "Yeah, just because you don't see it doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's not there."
Right.
Like, I tell my son, I was like, "You just didn't know I got suspended one time because I had an autistic meltdown because I told off my administrator."
Yeah,
It it's a thing. So you have to be tolerant and you have to be patient with people.
for sure. Yeah, that's a great definition. Do you think? I mean, how do you? You kind of talked about like having bringing like life skills maybe back into high schools and stuff like that. How do you think we can balance? Wanting. For me, I wanted my daughter to be included, so be with her peers in like regular classes. But kind of looking back, now maybe I did do wish she could have had more life skills classes. But at the time, I wanted her to be with those peers in the regular classes. Like how as a parent, how did you like balance that, or how do you think maybe some tips for parents trying to balance that line?
So, um, I think it's a fine line because it's hard
Right.
because teachers are not just dealing with one diagnosis, they're
Hmm.
dealing with multiple.
Yep.
Like, but what they're what the school system is going to really have to do is look at other countries and see that classrooms are not overrun and really pay your teachers and smaller classrooms and put in and really train the teachers, like bring in OTs, bring in speech.
Yeah.
And every one of the interventions that we have can benefit all these students.
Right.
Like, once we took out like recess and arts and music, students went downhill in their math skills, reading skills. And I'm like, that's what made students really get in there and learn things. It's like
Right.
those math
Sure.
skills and everything.
Yeah, and for some people, their brain doesn't work the way for those kind of classes. So some people need those math or sorry, those art or music or those other classes where it uses different parts of your brain to be able to get through the day. So not having those outlets of recess or music or art, I mean, it definitely. I mean, I would have probably had a hard time just focusing on just regular classes and testing and testing and testing. That would, I mean, I'm 48, so we didn't have that kind of stuff back then either. But it just, that would, for me, it seems like it'd be hard to be stay focused or want to be at school even if you're that's all you're doing all the time.
Yeah, like I was just lucky, like in the school I went to, we had like art,
Yep.
music,
Yep.
and it was part of our curriculum.
Yep.
And once you take those out,
Yeah.
I can only imagine what I was going to be like without that. I would probably crawl the walls.
For sure. So, what is your favorite part about having a podcast?
I mean, I learned so much. Like the different people I get to interview,
Yeah.
it is really awesome interviewing all these different people and learning all these things. Like as an OT, I'm like, man, I'm stupid.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to go back to school. So I decided I was gonna go back and get my neuroscience degree in November at King's. I'm hoping to get entered into King's College in
Okay.
London. So
Wow.
yeah, well, that's the only online program because I can't step into another
Gotcha.
classroom. I
Yep.
can't.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the same thing. Just meeting people such as yourself that I wouldn't meet probably otherwise, or just learning different things or expanding my brain as far as like learning different things. And it's interesting how there's little connections between people that are you wouldn't figure out if you didn't talk to them. So yeah, I have a lot of fun talking to people.
Right? Like my mom always wanted me to be a journalist, and I was like, I
Okay.
like talking to people, mom.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is one tip you can share to help the listeners be more inclusive today? So just something simple people can start doing today to be more inclusive.
Advocate. It doesn't matter who it is, just advocate. If you see somebody just being a dick, just advocate for that person. Just
Hmm.
say, hey, step off. Even if it's somebody you don't know, a friend, elderly person, just advocate for somebody. Doesn't have to
Sure.
be something over the top.
Yeah, I love that. Where's the best place for people to connect with you?
I have a link tree.
Okay.
I go under Linktree / adulting with autism, and you can find all my socials. And we have a Discord run by my son, Z, and his friend Ari, that has a community for autistic people that can just hook up and just build their own network and just
Sure.
say hello to one another.
Awesome.
Be friends.
That's cool. I've heard the word Discord before. Can you explain like what it is? It's like where like people can go in there and talk with each
Okay,
other.
I'm gonna try. It's this new
Okay.
fangly thing
Okay.
that you Gen Xers are like, so Discord is this thing that a lot of gamers like to use
Okay.
where they chat or stream.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, you Gen Zers and Alphas, and maybe some of you millennials. I like to get on there if I'm explaining
Yep.
this wrong, but they like to chat and they like to stream on there, mostly when
Okay.
they do gaming, and they can create all these feeds, and they can just connect and talk and
Okay.
all this good stuff. I didn't create this.
Yeah.
I was like, so listen, mommy doesn't do this.
Right.
That's why I'm not on the tick of the talk either.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I've heard of Discord before, and I play Magic the Gathering, kind of like Pokemon. So I've heard a lot of different people that play that or YouTube stuff I watch where join us on our Discord and play games. So I kind of had an idea what it was, but thanks for explaining it.
Yeah, if you got like people that are like Gen Zers, they can set all of that up for you.
There you go.
I don't know how to do any of this.
Yeah, for sure. Ready for the last question?
I Mercy, I hope so.
Do you like spam lunch meat? Yes or no?
I do. You got to fry it,
Wow.
and put it on some good bread.
There you
I
go.
I don't like mayo. I like Miracle Whip.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, so I live near Austin, Minnesota, where they make spam and where the spam museum's located. So if you ever come to Minnesota and want to visit the spam museum, you kind of got to come down to southern Minnesota where I live. So
Listen, we're southern over here. Like it's like
yeah,
spam, some potted meat, and some Vienna sausages over here.
I
Like
never.
my son was like, "What is all this stuff?" I'm like,
Yeah, I had not heard the word potted meat until like very recently watching. We were watching what we were watching, Next Level Chef with Gordon Ramsay, and they were like, he's using potted meat, and I was like, what the heck is that? So I had to look it up, but I'm like, I guess spam is kind of like a potted meat.
it sort of is a whole new thing. Like it's its own like thing.
Yeah,
Like my grandma, I grew up with it.
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. To those listening, thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. It is truly an honor. Please join the podcast newsletter by clicking on the link in the episode description to keep up with the latest episodes. Together, we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.